forse posso cominciare semplicemente con una nota personale, visto che sono tanti anni che non ho potuto visitare Bologna e non essere, sì, tornare in questo conservatorio è sempre un grande piacere, in questa sala in particolare è un onore essere presenti. E vi ringrazio per l'interesse e per la partecipazione. È una cosa davvero straordinaria che diciamo si riesca a organizzare così con mezzi di fortuna, diciamo, oppure un convegno su un compositore che veramente è molto importante, insomma, per la nostra storia della musica strumentale, che sembra quasi uscito in effetti dal panorama degli studi, e noi speriamo che con questa occasione di poter così, diciamo, dare un impulso alla ricerca oltre che all'esecuzione, perché non è successo così tanto, insomma, su Torelli dai tempi di Sherry, della monografia di Sherry, che ormai è stato un secolo, insomma. E sì, abbiamo un patrimonio molto ricco, ma di musica strumentale, in particolare la tradizione bolognese è stata fondamentale anche per il fatto che a Bologna si è anche avuto un'attività di produzione di musica stampa che non è, diciamo, paragonabile ad altri luoghi, ecco, a parte Venezia, insomma, in quel periodo. Controllo di non prendere il tempo per il nostro primo relatore. Quindi è un'opportunità oggi veramente di trovare un'occasione di scambio su questo compositore, ma anche, sì, qui ci sono presenti molte persone che si interessano in particolare di musica strumentale italiana diciamo 6-700, però anche nel panorama internazionale degli studi, e diciamo non è un tema di moda, fra virgolette, diciamo così. Ci sono altri approcci in questo momento, in realtà però c'è tantissimo lavoro, diciamo, di scavo, chiamiamolo pure così, che va ancora fatto sulle fonti, sulle musiche, e abbiamo adesso gli strumenti per farlo in una maniera anche metodologicamente innovativa. Quindi ecco, sono contenta di poter essere qui con voi e di poter ascoltare queste relazioni che comincio a introdurre, che siamo arrivati all'ora giusta. Ecco, il nostro primo relatore è Francisco Javier Lupianez Ruiz, conosciuto probabilmente da molti di voi. Si occupa di musica violinistica in quanto lui stesso è violinista, diplomato in violino, e ha un'attiva carriera come musicista in rinomate piazze internazionali, però ha anche una formazione musicologica, e si è studiato in Spagna, Salamanca, poi con Fabrizio Netto in Messico, quindi si muove sui due fronti, e questo dà vantaggio naturalmente per l'approccio a una musica così, diciamo, anche influenzata dal linguaggio proprio stesso dello strumento, del linguaggio violinistico, eccetera. Ecco, la prima relazione che oggi sentiremo riguarda le fonti di Torelli nella collezione di Pisendel, che sta venendo catalogata proprio dal nostro relatore insieme con Fabrizio Netto, vero? È uscito, visto che è anche uscito il catalogo dei concerti. Questa collezione è famosissima, importantissima, si conosce da decenni, però di fatto c'è ancora così tanto da studiare anche di queste fonti di Dresda, insomma. E lascio la parola perché il tempo corre. Grazie.
Grazie mille per la presentazione. Io sono veramente onorato, per me è un piacere enorme stare qui. Come vedete, il mio italiano è nella categoria del cattivo particolare, come Emiliano diceva. I will speak in English, and I prepare at my place, and I did several times in English. As you can listen, my English is not very good either, so sorry for you, but now I'm here. Well, in this presentation, let's go because we don't have too much time. In this presentation, I would like to trace Torelli's manuscript in the Pisendel archive in Dresden. It's mostly all my own research, so this is actually a work in progress, and I just would like to show you a little part of my work. Let's start speaking a little bit about this guy, Johann Georg Pisendel. I'm sure you already know. He was born in a very small town, Kadolsburg, close to Nuremberg in 1687. And I'm quite sure he began his musical studies with his father. In summer 1697, at the sweet age of 9 years, he entered in the Ansbach chapel as a sopranist. By then, the Ansbach orchestra was already very famous, thanks to the Kapellmeister Pistocchi and the excellent Concertmeister Torelli. We can divide Pisendel's studies there into two separate periods. The first one as a choir boy, and the second one when he played the violin. Pisendel's stay in Ansbach was somehow privileged already from the very beginning. He stayed in the Kapellmeister apartment where his training, even when he was just a choir boy, in the first years, included music administration and also copying music. As a violinist, he surely took lessons with Torelli, although the biographical data from the sources may sometimes be a little bit not very reliable, actually, but there are some studies like K. Cobb carries out a very interesting study of the subject and concludes in the regularity of Pisendel's violin lesson with Torelli. We can assume that, for sure, that he left Ansbach with a very solid violin training, taking into account the style that Pisendel caused when he arrived to Leipzig. From the very beginning, he was like a violin star. Like, wow, he plays amazing. That was in 1709 when he moved to Leipzig, and he became a very important member of the group funded by Telemann, the Collegium Musicum. From then on, Telemann and Pisendel became super besties, super good friends. And, well, in 1711, Volumier heard him playing with the Collegium Musicum, and he also was amazed, and he called Pisendel to play in the Dresden Orchestra, where he entered officially in 1712. In 1728, he became officially the Concertmeister. And there we find his collection. It's made up of his personal collection of music. The collection is made up of almost 2,000 instrumental music manuscripts, a very huge list of composers, 204 more or less, one of known composers, starting up Vivaldi, Telemann, Fasch, Graun, and around 200 manuscripts that are anonymous for now. Most of the scores were intended for the performance at the court of Dresden, but not only. The Pisendel collection includes also his personal archive. He was crazy, actually. He kept everything, some drafts for his work, the cadenzas, the music that he copied when he was in Ansbach, the music that he copied altogether when he was in a travel. He took everything with him. So it's a mix between the sources that he used for the orchestra and personal scores. When Pisendel died, his collection was kept in the Hofkirche in Dresden to save in the cellar in a cabinet called Cabinet 2, the Schwanzwein. It's here you can see. And at the beginning of the end of the 19th century, it was moved to the Japanese palace in the very center of Dresden. So our archive is over there, in the Japanese, behind this fire. And it survived, because it was behind a wall, and there is a lot of things that is damaged because the water after, but it survives. It's amazing. Well, dating and organizing all those manuscripts is very difficult. It's very difficult to know when a manuscript was created or when it was used, if it was used at all. Watermark, astrology, copages, everything can be very confusing and give us contradiction information. For instance, in Dresden we can find many examples of a certain kind of paper that was used in a very distant date. So he took paper from one date and it was used to do copies 10 years after, and it's the same watermark, so this is a mess to dating something. Well, I have not time to go deeper on that, but I would like to show you this part of my own research a little bit, something that can help us to date the manuscript copied by Pisendel himself, as he copied a lot of things. Here we have this G clef and the very early writing by Pisendel, and we can see how it's changing the G clef later on. Here I gather some manuscript and we can see a little bit. This is not something that we can use to say this was copied the 25th of November 1770, but can help us to trace a little bit those manuscripts, especially the one by Torelli that I will speak. So, which manuscripts with pieces by Torelli? As far as I found, we have 15 manuscripts, 7 concertos, 2 sonatas for violin and basso, 5 trio sonatas, and 1 sinfonia per violini e 4 trombe. And the dates of elaboration of those manuscripts stems quite a bit on time from the very beginning, something that are a little bit later on time in Dresden, and we will see 2 manuscripts that I have not a clue when they were copied or made. So let's start our journey through those manuscripts. Let's start with the Ansbach manuscript. Those manuscripts were prepared in Ansbach, although it's very difficult to say if Pisendel was just a choir boy, because remember that he had the duty of copying music, or he already was playing. We see in this manuscript the early writing, in addition, the shared characteristic kind of paper and copies. We found this trio sonata in the major, the part were copied by Pisendel. This is exactly the same kind of paper that we will find in the Vivaldi Sonata early 820. Remember this because I will come back after. It's the same paper of all the Sinfonia in the major and copy, and Pisendel was also the copyist. Also, Pisendel is the copyist of this trio sonata. The trio sonata, the one in the bottom, the copyist was not identified in the current literature. However, I think it is Pisendel. It is John's handwriting. In addition, the watermark belongs to a mill very close to Ansbach. That's why I think that this manuscript was created in Ansbach. The Dresden Library and also the Rins gave us different dates. They said that the manuscript was created between 1720 and 1730, and anonymous copies. But there are a lot of mistakes on that already in another sources that I think this manuscript was created really in the previous years. Also in Ansbach, we find this Sinfonia that is quite interesting because we found 2 sets of parts of this work, both copied by Pisendel. 6 parts created in Ansbach, we see this early calligraphy, and 3 parts that were clearly created in Dresden. So this is a proof of the reuse of the material. This Torelli was copied in Ansbach and then he reused and adapted to play this same piece in Dresden. In the very early manuscript we find this sonata that Fabrizio will speak just after. The production of this manuscript is not clear to me. Maybe it will be someday, or maybe not. The paper matched with other works copied during Pisendel Ansbach period. And we can see in this example, like this is Albinoni Sonata, copied by Pisendel with this early handwriting writing by Pisendel. But the handwriting is quite different. Also we find, as I told you, paper that was used during, for instance, we have some paper that he brought during his travel in Venice in 1770, and some copy of another concerto in the exactly same paper made years after. So that makes everything very difficult. After being in Ansbach, Pisendel goes to Leipzig, and to date those manuscripts I base my work above all on the identification of some copies, watermarks, the repertoire, put together everything, and then I took some conclusion. It might be said that the literature about this subject and this period is quite contradictory. But well, besides Pisendel, we have two other copies from this period, both linked with Eisenach, Weimar, and the central Germany between 1708 and 1713, more or less, when Telemann was precisely in Eisenach. So it's linked, all those copies, with Telemann and the Collegium Musicum. When analyzing the content of the manuscript in this kind of paper, it makes sense to place this entire repertoire in the period of the Collegium Musicum, because the great presence of Telemann and Hoffmann, who was the director of the Collegium Musicum between 1705 and his death in 1715. Also, we find a lot of annotations on those manuscripts, annotation for ornamentation, annotation for dynamics. That means that Pisendel was the concertmeister and decided everything that could happen when he was in the Collegium Musicum. Or also, another possibility is that he used those copies when he was the concertmeister in Dresden. Again, we don't know this for sure. So, which pieces survive for this period? I will go quickly. The trio sonata in D major was copied for sure in this period. Let's remember that he was cello player in Asbach, and he was the teacher of Pisendel also, so could be that they play together this or not. Well, the Sinfonia for two violins also, they share same paper, copies. What else? Those two concerti that also belong to the Opus 8 are also there, made in Leipzig, and then after that, Pisendel put in his Bach and took to Dresden. In 1712, Pisendel joined the Dresden Orchestra. At that time, Volumier was the concertmeister and in charge of the repertoire. Especially after 1717, the Dresden repertoire began to be conducted more and more by Pisendel. But it must be taken into account that Volumier still played an important role, and it's quite possible that Pisendel kept some scores in his archive from Volumier's time. Even, we don't know for sure, a score created before he even arrived to Dresden. He found those scores and, oh, I like this for me. It is true that with Pisendel, there was an important, very important Italianization of the Dresden repertoire compared to the mildly French taste of the Volumier period. But the repertoire of the Dresden Orchestra during the Volumier period was by no means limited to the French repertoire. Germans, such as Telemann, Fax, and also a lot of Italian repertoire, Valentini, Venturini, Vivaldi. It is not unreasonable to think that Torelli's manuscripts from this period were just found by Pisendel, and as other very interesting manuscripts he kept. Also, on the other hand, Pisendel's relationship with Torelli suggests that Torelli's presence in Dresden was sponsored by Pisendel. All mysteries. Yeah, I don't know. I would like to show you, in this regard, this example. This manuscript contains a Venturini concerto. On the first page of the first violin, we can see the W for Volumier. That means that, or indicates that Volumier was the concertmeister. We also find a lot of P for Pisendel when in the score that Pisendel uses a concertmeister. Exactly the same copies and the same paper are found in the Torelli concerto that we see next. This concerto that is there, copied in two different parts, the same copyist is there, so that's why I said that. Well, this very first concerto also shared those copies that worked mainly between 1710, when Volumier was there. If we compare with the other paper, we see a lot of French repertoire, so the dates of and the copies of the dates, everything makes very possible that was created in those Volumier time. Also, the other concerto share the same copies, and also the paper was used to copy a lot of Lully and Depart as the previous one. We have for this period this concerto in D major that we already have seen. It's very interesting because the manuscript contained this work is made on two kind of paper. Was made close to Dresden and used between 1710 and 1720. So the watermark also the same paper with a lot of French repertoire and a lot of W with Volumier. We have the two copies and also one part copied by Pisendel. The interesting thing is that we found in all those parts a lot of annotations by Pisendel. That means that it was created a very early period when Volumier was concertmaster, but it's a proof that maybe Pisendel was taking the role of concertmaster in a very early days. Or another possibility, that he used those parts when he was already concertmaster in from 1717 or 1728. Again, well, in this delicto I am not giving any things, nothing, certainly, sorry. Well, we go on. Also, we find this symphony, the symphony we already have seen because we have two sets of parts, one of them generated in Ansbach, and then the other one, for sure, was created in Dresden. And the other one is a copy by Pisendel with the parts of the first violin, second violin, and bassoon. Following the trace of the paper and the watermark, we find that the paper was in this Volumier period, early period of Pisendel being in Dresden. So I will say that he did this copy in the 1712, 13 or 1717 as much, but, and adapting Torelli's with adding this fagot. Then another manuscript. This manuscript is dated by the rings between 1720 and 1730. It was prepared by Pisendel, and we don't have any information about the watermark. It has notes we can see with the pencil from the 19th century, because when the archive was discovered in the 19th century, actually there were a lot of first war premiere performances. The very first performances of Vivaldi music were from this archive, actually. So we have those annotations here. It is very difficult to establish the exact date of the creation of this manuscript because the handwriting of Pisendel didn't change too much, but I will say that it's around the 20s, something like this. And the two last manuscripts, those two manuscripts that I have not clue where they were. I have an idea. This concerto for trumpet, also, it seems we have another manuscript here in Bologna. There is not information about the watermark, the anonymous copies, according to the race of Italian origin, but not sure. Also, there are other manuscripts by the same copyist, Concerto by Martini, that is dated by the race between 1705 and 1730, that is like, okay, a lot, you know. Since there is not more similar paper, I can suspect that the origin is outside of Dresden, because it's usual to find more paper and also more things copied by the same copyist that was working in Dresden. It's not the case, so maybe it's taken from outside Dresden, but I don't know. The other source is this sonata for violin. We only have in Dresden this copyist and also this paper. The paper seems to be made close to Ansbach, but it's not sure either. And the copyist doesn't appear in the literature as far as I know. The read says that it's possibly Italian. I couldn't verify that. In the previous case, well, I don't. And finishing, I will like to point out this very nice possibility. A few years ago, Federico Maria Sardelli and me myself identified the RV 820 sonata, the very earliest sonata work by Vivaldi, And the piece is found actually in a set of scores from the time when Pisendel was studying in Amsterdam. From this same period, we also find several pieces by Vivaldi copied there. This gave the opportunity to Sardelli to explore and speculate how it's possible that those Vivaldi work arrived in Amsterdam. And I think it's worth to mention this thing. He gave us two possibilities. Torelli may have obtained Vivaldi's own manuscript during his trips to Venice, and it is not excluded that Vivaldi may have stopped in Bologna to take lessons with Torelli, a bit more, and also we have another possibility. Vivaldi may have been in Ansbach with his father, Giovanni Battista, between December 1702 and February 1703, because he asked for an extension, so he was traveling. But unfortunately, that's like mostly everything I said in this spectrum. Well, none of this option is verifiable, and it belongs for now to the field of speculation, but it's possible. To finish this, Torelli's influence on Pisendel and his school is just to be determined. I have only wanted to trace those manuscripts in the Pisendel archive. It seems clear to me that Pisendel promoted the performance of Torelli beyond his stay on Ansbach, both when he was in Leipzig and in Dresden, promoting the copying and even the adaptation of his work. Furthermore, we have not only one but two of the manuscripts with annotations from the 19th century. So those copies in Dresden also serve to promote the memory of Torelli in the beginning of the 20th century. That's all for now, friends. So thank you very much.
Molte grazie per questa carrellata veramente istruttiva e anche, diciamo, rapida, ma che va molto in profondità in realtà su alcuni punti essenziali delle ricerche su manoscritti e sulle mani, sulle filigrane. Lascio spazio adesso per i vostri commenti o domande. C'è qualche...
Tante possibilità che non possiamo immaginare, perché se non so la risposta, non la so. Questa possibilità del Federico per me ha una possibilità molte possibili, no, sei in italiano, scusa per l'italiano, ma forse un'altra qualchiera, un viaggiatore, che non si sa. Questo è veramente difficile. Il mistero.
In realtà abbiamo, credo, in questo senso un'idea forse un po' ristretta, perché già in periodi molto più antichi, e mi sono occupata insomma negli ultimi anni, c'è una comunicazione, un trasferimento di musiche, ma molto molto più grande di quello che uno può immaginare, ma veramente, anche spedite per posta, messe spedite, insomma, per dire, quindi figuriamoci se non funzionava così anche in un periodo in cui comunque la comunicazione era già più veloce, più moderna sotto certi aspetti, per cui io credo che le possibilità per arrivare ad avere una musica nelle mani ce ne siano tante, secondo me è difficile classificarle. Basta che anche un amico di un amico abbia copiato, oppure un viaggiatore sia passato, si sia preso, ce ne sono, i contatti personali sono talmente ramificati, credo sia veramente difficile incanalare. Altre domande? Beh, forse io potrei chiedere ancora, mi interesserebbe sapere a che punto è questa ricerca e diciamo che cosa ti aspetti che diciamo alla fine di riuscire a determinare su questo materiale, adesso in particolare va bene su Torelli, ma in generale anche sui suoi studi su Pisendel?
Vede, la ricerca per me è di contestualizzare tutte le fonti e sapere meglio come è andata l'interpretazione di Torelli, non solamente in Ansbach, sino anche in Leipzig, a Dresda, e come, per esempio, non ho analizzato forse le strumentazioni e le numere di copie che Pisendel ha fatto, che è diversa dalla copia in Ansbach, uno per parte o due per parte, come si faceva in Dresda, come si faceva in Leipzig. Tutta questa no, ha una risposta anche approfondire. Questo. Grazie.
Grazie, abbiamo ancora tempo per qualche domanda, osservazione? Trovo interessante comunque molto che abbiamo delle testimonianze chiarissime di una ricezione, sì, di cui sapevamo certamente qualcosa, però adesso possiamo seguirla con più dettaglio e anche sulla base veramente di dati concreti sulle fonti, con date, trovo che sia un grande passo avanti. Beh, se non ci sono altre domande forse possiamo già cominciare a preparare il prossimo intervento, però casomai possiamo trovare sempre occasione di recuperare, diciamo, la discussione anche quando abbiamo sentito qualche altro intervento, se poi ci sono domande per Francisco più tardi.
Il futuro in italiano sarà meglio?
No, va benissimo.
No, 2 ore sarà meglio.
Ancora grazie per questo intervento.